Sure.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order at this time. And if you will, please stand and let's pledge allegiance to the flag. Anne Marie has a flag on her desk there, and we'll stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag of the
of the
United
United
States
States of America and
and
unto
to
the
the
republic
republic for
stands
which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
justice.
liberty and justice for all.
Liberty.
Thank you. Does anybody want to volunteer to give the invocation or skip over that? Roger, would you like to give the invocation, please?
I'd love to. No,
Okay.
thank you. I'll be glad to. Let's bow our heads. Eternal God, we give you thanks for the beauty of this day, the opportunities you give to us as leaders to try and make this town a loving, compassionate place in which to live. I ask that you will guide us through these darkest times when the future is somewhat uncertain and we're not always sure where we're headed. Give us strength and hope in these days to come. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Roger. Now we need to approve the minutes of the special meeting that we had on April the 7th. So I need a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved, Mayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those approved, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who do not approve, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, and Anne Marie, I'm gonna call on you to comment about the public meeting that was from March the 10th.
Yes, Mayor. Council will recall that we solicited proposals from banks back in February. And unfortunately, it was right around the time when the global markets and then the United States markets were reacting to COVID-19 in China. And we didn't receive any proposals. We talked to the LGC. They suggested we wait until things stabilized a little bit, and hopefully we would receive bids. I reached out to them yesterday to see if they had any advice. They have a list of banks that's quite broad. It's more like banks that do financing, public financing throughout the state. And they suggested that we go ahead and send proposals to all of those banks plus our local banks. So we're going to, if you are okay with that, we'll go ahead and proceed with that. We won't be able to obviously conduct the public hearing tonight, but our goal would be to receive proposals in time for you to have a public hearing at your May regular meeting. And then we would be able to submit our application to the local government commission to be on their June agenda. So we're still optimistic that a bank will want to bid on our project. I was not able to speak with Barnhill today, but I will hopefully hear from them this week and update you. But the last time I spoke with them, they were fine with us waiting until we got everything straight. They said that they had plenty of work in the early spring, and so they weren't worried about us causing them any delays in their schedule. So Mayor, I don't think you need any action tonight. You just don't need to conduct that public hearing.
Okay, all right, thank you. And along those same lines, I talked to a couple of bankers yesterday, and I don't think banks are making any loans right now, to be honest with you, from what they were telling me, that banks are not making loans right now, period. They don't know what's going to happen, or, in the industry and all, and they're just not making loans as I understand it. Well, thank you for that report, and we'll just do the best we can to try to solicit bids and see where we can go. But thank you for that. We'll move into our committee meetings at this time then, and I'll call on Chairman High to speak for the administrative committee.
Thank you, Mayor Stallings. We only have 2 items to consider tonight. The first one, the administrative committee recommended at our committee meetings last week that we defer adoption of the 2020 vision statement until post-COVID-19, until we get through this current state of emergency. We all feel pretty certain that we're going to have some adverse budgetary effects as a result of COVID-19, and we just felt it was best to table the adoption of it. Once we get through the pandemic, our budget will look differently, and I imagine our wants and needs and goals may very well be different. So I'd put that in the form of a motion that we defer adoption of our 2020 vision statement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, the second item
I'm in
that
the
we,
meeting.
I think, Mayor Pro Tem
Councilman
Bond.
So,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, you in good. We hear you. We
Yeah.
see you.
we see you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The second item that the administrative committee needs to take action on at our committee meeting, we've recommended that council
It went away
adopt
again.
a resolution encouraging
Okay.
businesses to allow firefighters to respond to calls during working hours. Chief Bass spoke to us at the committee meeting, and he
Still can't
let
hear.
us know that weekdays are the hardest time that he can have getting firefighters to be able to respond to calls. And he indicated to us at the council meeting that this resolution would certainly assist him in hopefully having more people available to protect our citizens in the event of a fire. So with that being said, I would put in the form of a motion that we adopt the resolution encouraging businesses to allow firefighters to respond to calls during the workday.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
And that concludes the admin committee's business, Mayor Stallings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, the next is our finance committee, and that's chaired by Chairman Dixon.
So we have one thing on the agenda tonight, and it's recommended.
No, I
that-
can't hear anything.
Can you hear me, Councilman Bond? Anyway, it's recommended that the council authorize staff to begin the process to sell the properties that the town has acquired in the North Oakham Street redevelopment zone. I'll put that in the form of a motion, and we had a lively discussion on that at our administrative meeting.
So moved. You're making the motion?
I made the motion, yeah.
Oh, second.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that being all for the Finance Committee, we'll move now to Public Works, and that is chaired by Chairman Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. We only have one item. It was recommended the council approve the agreement for ground maintenance of both cemeteries in town. As a follow-up to our last meeting discussion on contracting out the grounds maintenance work at both the Vine Oak and the Beaver Hill cemeteries, I would first like to ask Anne Marie if she'd kind of give us a recap on the financial implications of such a move. And secondly, I would like to ask Corey if he could give us some information on the operational improvements the town would expect by contracting this work out. So first, Anne Marie, can you kind of touch the budget aspect?
I will be happy to. Thank you. Part of, or one of the big savings that we would realize if you all were to approve this contract would be the elimination of one position and the overhead and benefits that are associated with that position. I think my notes indicated that savings was around $40,000 a year. And because of the way our fiscal year runs, we would have May and June, if you approve the contract, where funds would be needed to pay that contractor. But the position has been vacant for about 4 or 5 months, Corey.
Yeah.
So that salary is, hey Chief, that salary is still in the cemetery budget. So we actually don't need to do a budget amendment. What could be done if you approve it is Virginia and Corey would do a budget transfer. They would transfer funds from the unspent salary line item into a contracted services account to pay for this fiscal year's contract obligations. And then going forward, we've identified other savings from within Corey's operation that would allow us to fully fund this proposal next year without having you all to do anything like raise taxes. So we're confident that we can fund this proposal. And I think now Corey will talk to you about why we think it's a worthwhile investment and to change the way we maintain the cemetery. So Corey?
Well, thank you, Anne Marie. Thank you, council. One of the things I did want to kind of highlight we spoke about this in the committee meetings this past week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. One of the things that really did hurt us as far as man hours was when we lost the prisoners through the work release program. And where we are now, we replaced that a year ago or 2 years ago with high school summer work program. We really had a good turnout our first year, and we were really able to use that program to fill those voids and the number of people that it really requires to keep up that cemetery. Well, one thing that commonly gets overlooked when you consider the cemeteries and the maintenance and how special of an area that is, there's a lot of other properties that the town owns. The estimates that we gave Anne Marie and the cost and maintenance for this is only including a 7-month cycle for our typical grass cutting season that cost number is based on. Now, the proposals that we received were a 12-month projection for an annual cost versus a 7-month cost. So that number that we saw really doesn't include those additional 5 early spring and late fall winter seasons that we do have additional time in there. That was strictly for landscaping maintenance of those 2 cemeteries. The projected man hours that we had to use to estimate the time required to maintain that was either a 4-day week or a 3-day week, with a head count higher than actually what we have now for our landscaping crew. So in order for us to reduce head count with just one person and the amount of benefits we will see in the other areas for parks, for right-of-ways, for town-owned properties, it's just going to be just a tremendous improvement. And really right now, we spend 4.5 days a week at the beginning of the season to keep Beaver Hill and Vine Oak in the condition they were for this past Easter holiday. So that leaves very little time for the other areas. We spend a lot of time on overtime during the summer months, not only with landscaping crews, but with other street sanitation, wastewater, water and sewer, water treatment, any of the guys we can grab. I've had upwards of 13 guys in there 2 days straight this past summer. So the man hours that we have to put in versus the value of what these contractors brought to us just far outweigh the cost we typically would spend in one season. I really think this is the right thing for us to do and will really enhance the other properties that the town owns.
Thank you, Corey.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Corey. That was a very good report, and I think that's probably the thing to do at this point in time. Do we need to take any action on that tonight, Anne Marie, or?
Yes, sir. I believe that the Public Works Committee is recommending approval.
Mayor,
of
I'd like
the-
to make a motion that we approve this grounds maintenance agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much, Anne Marie and Corey, for those reports. That was a very good report, very thorough.
Thank you.
Mayor Stallings, I have one question. We talked about maybe increasing the fees for purchase of plots at the cemetery. Is there any movement toward looking at that to help defray some of the costs that we are incurring?
Okay, Marie.
Yes, sir, Councilman. We did look at that as an option, and honestly, for the amount of money, yeah, I just felt like in this environment, with everything going on, we did not want to look at raising cemetery fees. So we'll do a comprehensive survey and give you some data, but I kind of backed off that idea. I thought it was a good idea before the virus, but now I just kind of think, let's just look for funding in other places look for savings in the operations department instead of burdening the users.
Well, budget time is coming up in a couple of months, and you can take a look at all that when budget time comes up and make a decision at that time. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Anne Marie. And I'm under new business. We have 4 items under that, and I'll call on Anne Marie to handle those if she will, please.
Mayor, Tammy Woodley, our HR person, has been working really hard, participating in webinars, learning about all of the aspects of the special, really emergency leave that the federal government required employers, which we are an employer, to provide to their employees in case employees were to be impacted by COVID-19. Tammy worked with John Leidy, who is an attorney with Hood, and John drafted a policy that he recommended that you all consider adopting. And Tammy looked at it and said, it's consistent with everything that she's been learning on the webinars. And those of you that are employers, I'm sure, have been overwhelmed with all of the requirements. But the way that John has put it together, I think it's concise, it's easy to understand. And so far, we're fortunate we've not had any employees impacted with the virus, but this leave counts if somebody has to stay home and take care of a family member who has the virus. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions of Anne Marie on this item? If not, I will ask for a motion.
You got one motion, so moved.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, and motion is carried. Anne Marie, the next one is yours as well.
Yes, Mayor, and this action item also has to do with COVID-19. As you know, I think about 3 weeks ago, Governor Cooper requested that the president declare North Carolina a disaster state, eligible to receive FEMA funding. And President Trump did declare North Carolina eligible. And as you know from our recent work with Hurricane Dorian, there are several steps that have to be taken in order for the town to be eligible to receive reimbursement for expenses, which can include personnel, time, and also purchase of equipment and supplies. And so Virginia is our go-to person with FEMA, and we have prepared in your packet the resolution which requires the council to designate an applicant's agent, and that agent is then responsible for signing all of the paperwork. And as in the past, we recommend that you designate me to be the applicant agent, and Virginia would be your alternate, thank you, agent. And so we're asking the council to adopt this resolution.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carried.
Mayor, the next item is the actual disaster assistance agreement, and it's basically a grant agreement between the town and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. And this outlines all of the things that the town will agree to in order for us to receive the funding or the reimbursement from the state. You may recall that you approved a similar agreement back when Hurricane Dorian was approved to be eligible for this disaster assistance.
Okay, we need a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. The next is a budget amendment for the maintenance of the cemetery. We really don't need to take any action on that, do we?
Right, Mayor, you're correct. We can handle that administratively through budget transfer.
Anne Marie, is that taking money from a salary line item and moving it into a contractual? Line
Exactly,
item? Okay.
yes, within the departmental budget.
Gotcha.
Yeah, budget amendments are required if we were to transfer money from the sanitation budget to the cemetery budget.
Gotcha.
You all have to approve that.
Okay, thank you, Anne Marie. And that completes our committee reports. And the next one is items considered timely and important. Does anyone have anything that they consider timely and important to bring before the council?
Mayor, I've been hearing a lot of complaints about noise, mainly mufflers on North Broad and Granville and West Queen. Lately it's been real loud downtown. I don't know what we can do about it. I know we have a noise ordinance, but I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm just getting some complaints about it.
Right. Chief, are you on there? Chief King, are you on?
He's here with me. We had a little technical issue, but he heard the
mainly mufflers.
The complaints, mufflers. So we'll work on a plan of action to address or try to abate that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. All right, anyone else?
I just want to say, I think all the videos, yours and Councilman Bond's and Hack's videos have been great. Thank y'all for doing those.
Right.
Absolutely. I was going to comment on that too. Councilman High and Councilman Bond both did a very good job on theirs. I thought it was very good. And also I'd like to comment on Councilman Miller and Councilman Coleman were they were working on cleaning up trees yesterday afternoon after the storm. So we'll comment on that. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything?
Speaking of the trees, I'd like to compliment Corey for his awareness. We were talking with the family. He recognized that Liz Townsend, whose house was squashed somewhat by the trees, was going into shock, and called the medics to come and look after her. I thought that was a very insightful thing to do. The rest of us didn't quite know what was going on, didn't know what to do, and he acted in a way that I think really protected her health at that time. So,
Corey, good job, Corey. We told them yesterday to probably Thursday before they pick the stuff up, and they were down there today cleaning up, and it looks good. And they were very appreciative, very appreciative.
Yep, you're welcome. I think the lady across the street wanted some of the wood back. She said that was her tree.
I told Anne-Marie this morning, we're so very blessed to have the crews that we have. Corey does a good job. All of our employees just do a wonderful job, and we're so very appreciative of that. I think does anyone else from up here have anything to comment on? If not, I think we only have one comment from the public, one person in the public. Judy, do you have anything to comment about?
Oops, I have to unmute her.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your being interested enough to come and join us. Well, that completes our meeting tonight. Unless somebody else has anything they want to bring forward, that completes our agenda. So thank you all for joining in, and we did have a couple of glitches, but for the most part, I think everything worked out fine. And Saoirse, thank you. Thank you, Anne-Marie and Chief King, for trying to get Reverend Poole on. And we're so very thankful that we have the crew that we have. And thank you all. So with that, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.